In this faculty development series, we will focus on cognitive load theory and how it applies to medical education. This will be the first of two parts focused on cognitive load theory and medical education. This development will focus on teaching and facilitating learning, the science of learning, and the learning environment. So what is cognitive load theory? Cognitive load theory is one of many theories that describe the way in which adults learn and process new information. To understand cognitive load theory, we first have to look at human memory. Using the Atkinson-Shiffrin model of human memory, we can look at the three different stages. The first of these stages is the sensory memory, which is made up predominantly of echoic or auditory and iconic visual sensory information. As we are all constantly being bombarded by a myriad of sensory input, the capacity of this system is incredibly large. However, the retention is incredibly short. By applying some attention, these sensory inputs can be transferred to the working memory, which has a substantially reduced capacity. Adult human working memory has a capacity of about 7 discrete pieces of information. The trade-off for this reduced capacity is a markedly increased retention of about 15 to 30 seconds. These working memory can be applied further and encoded into our long-term memory, which theoretically has an infinite capacity and retention. These long-term memories can then be retrieved and processed again through working memory. We can see that this working memory creates a substantial bottleneck effect for the work of learning. And it is cognitive load theory which describes the various components of this bottleneck. Looking at working memory, we can break it up into 3 distinct loads. The intrinsic cognitive load, that which is essential to the task of learning. The extraneous cognitive load, that which is not essential to the task. And the germane load, which I describe as the work of learning. This is the strategies, the attention, the concentration that is applied to transferring that intrinsic cognitive load, that intrinsic working memory, into our long-term memory. We have to be careful, though, because while working memory is finite, if any of these loads exceed that working memory, we can impair performance. To summarize our equation, the working memory is made up of the intrinsic cognitive load plus the extraneous cognitive load plus the germane load applied. To better understand this theory, I think it's helpful to think about an example. We can think about intrinsic load in terms of computers and the working memory associated with computers. While we may have a large hard drive or cloud storage, we can really only focus on so many tasks at a time. If we were to break this up into the theory of working memory, we can really only have about 7 documents open at a time. And realistically, most would agree that we can only focus on 1 or 2 at any given time. We can think about extraneous. We can take this example and take it further by thinking about extraneous load. With extraneous load, we have our documents open, but we've also started to open a bunch of other programs that are not relevant to the task at hand. We've got PowerPoint opening, we've got some music playing, we're opening up a chat. There's so many other things going on in the background that are not relevant to our learning and focusing on the documents we have open. Germane load can be thought of as the strategies used to help us focus and retain that information. I like to think of this as turning on the split screen so that you can better focus on the 2 documents you really need to focus on, and turning on the autosave so you can save your work as you go, ensuring that this makes it into your long-term memory. Let's look at a few examples of various learners and how working memory and cognitive load apply to early and advanced learners performing a similar task. For these illustrations, working memory will be the black box. Working memory, as we've mentioned, is finite. There is only so much that we are able to process. In this example, there is a fairly large extraneous load, the red box, and an even larger intrinsic load. The task is difficult And the learner has not yet integrated how to chunk and make information smaller so that it fits within the working memory. We can compare that with the cognitive load of an advanced learner who's performing the task with no intention to learning. This learner has done the task before, and so the intrinsic load is a lot smaller. We'll note that the working memory remains fixed, as does the extraneous load. Neither of those have been reduced. Because this learner is not intending to learn, though, there is no concentration or effort applied. We can compare that with the cognitive load of an advanced learner who is performing a task and learning. In this example, this learner is applying that increased working memory as germane load, optimizing their learning of the task. To summarize, working memory is the sum of intrinsic load, extraneous load, and germane load. Our goal as educators is to optimize the germane load. In order to do this, we need to decrease the intrinsic load for learners and decrease the extraneous load as possible. Thank you so much for your attention. Please visit the tiny URL to find the reference for this faculty development. Thank you.